Silver Doctors, live on air. My name is Mike. I'm with my better half, Mr. Paul Half Dollar. Paul, how you doing, my friend?
Doing good today, Mike. How you doing today, this lovely Monday morning,
Doing
afternoon?
excellent. Doing excellent. To look forward to having some good back and forth. Got, of course, as always, the primary subject matter for today is going to be metals prices and all that type of stuff. So we're going to get to that. And
hmm
so before we get started, let's welcome a couple people in the chat. You want to do some shout outs real quick based upon who's watching thus far?
Yeah, we got Mellow Stacker. How's it going, Mellow Stacker? And I'm going in reverse order. So we got Canada signing in, we got France signing in, we got looks like we got representation all over the place today, Mike. We got SG fans, we got TRP, we got John. Um, we got a lot of people tuning in. We got Albert. We got low blood pressure. So it's nice to see everybody joining us today.
Yeah, welcome, welcome, welcome. So, with that being the case, let's get ready to dive right in, full steam ahead. So, as always, if you guys have any thoughts, ideas, or any input on today's topics, feel free to let us know in the chat. Make sure you highlight at Silver Doctor so to stand out. And then also, there's a number 567-336-0844. The number should be good to go for you guys to call in and let us know what's on your mind. And other than that, let's begin. So, Paul, prices right now. So I'm assuming a lot of people are concerned because that the very subject title and the thumbnail you created was very telling. So give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of thoughts and it's a lot, but let's break it down here. I hadn't been this bearish. I turned bearish last week. I don't know if you remember last Wednesday. I was like, I'm starting to get a bad feeling about next week for the metals.
Yeah.
And I started to turn bearish, but I was thinking that 1500 and 1750 we're going to hold here. But now I've turned even more bearish since then. And it all started when I started doing my wrap when I started doing my outlook this morning.
Yeah.
So you want me to break down what's going on in the metals here today, Mike?
Yeah, please do. Shine some light on it for us. I'm sure that's what everyone wants to know.
Okay. Now, tomorrow China celebrates some sort of like their Independence Day or their revolution. It's one of these like holidays for like the birth of the communist Chinese. I don't know exactly what it is, but they call it Golden Week. Yet it's a week-long celebration, and tomorrow is the actual holiday. Okay. But the point is that the markets are closed from tomorrow all the way through next Tuesday. And this is this Chinese and the Shanghai Gold Exchange. I don't know if it's to or through Tuesday, but either way, I think it's Tuesday through Monday, but it might be through Tuesday. But that's not the big point. The big point is what's going on this week. And remember, last week I was saying, if you're babysitting kids, it's easier to babysit one kid than it is two, right? So if we think of China like a kid, the cartel doesn't have to worry about China at all this week, right? So that's like, a free license to smash.
Yeah.
But as I was preparing my outlook this morning, I looked at it again to see, exactly what the dates were and all this and that. But the things that I hadn't noticed are two very important things here. One of them is that there's been a margin hike, right? And what that means, right? I put away two little analogies this morning to think about the margin hikes. Margin is like, imagine you go to buy a car, right? And you put a down payment on the car. Well, a margin hike would be like you drive the car off the lot, right? And you put like 5,000 down on it. Well, nobody has that. You put like 500 down on it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden the dealer calls you up and they're like, well, wait a second. You actually can't put down that 500. You got to come back and give us $5,000, right? So that's a margin hike, right? Yeah. Or you can think about it like this, right? So think about it like you got a credit card and you make your minimum monthly payment. And it's, September 30th and you barely got it in. And then all of a sudden the credit card company calls you up and they say, hey, guess what though? We actually, raised your monthly payment. So we know you just paid, but, you got to have to pay a little bit more this month anyway. You'd be like, well, I don't even have the money. Well, this is a margin hike, right? So people who buy and trade gold and silver, they buy and trade it on margin, right? So I'm just giving a crude example, but let's say, you want to control $100,000 worth of gold and it costs $1,000 to do it because you're doing it on margin. Well, a margin hike means that you got to pony up more if you want to control that. So it's in my article today. I can't remember the exact numbers, but they raised the margin requirement on gold and they raised it on silver in Shanghai. So what that means is, if you were in control of $100,000 gold, $100,000 worth of gold, and it costs $10,000 to hold that position. Yeah. Well, if they hike the requirements, now it's going to cost you $15,000. So since a lot of people trade on margin, they don't have that kind of money. What do you got to do? You got to sell. Yeah. You got to sell. If you can't come up with that money, you got to sell it, right? If you can't come up with that extra down payment on that car, well, they're going to take the car back. On silver, it's even worse, right? On silver, it's even worse. But that's just one of the aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the other aspect. This is the thing that I actually find more interesting. And I'm surprised that not many people have caught on to this at all.
Mm-hmm.
But on the Shanghai Gold Exchange's website, talking about the holidays this week and the up in the margin requirement, the other thing that it talks about is when markets reopen, for gold, there's going to be a limit in variation of price of 8% and silver, a variation in limit of 10%. What that means is when the markets reopen in China, they won't be more than 10% from where they are now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is very, very interesting because the markets in China are already closed. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's already like Monday evening in China. I don't know exactly what time it is, but the markets are already closed in China. So the important thing to know about that is, I was using 1750 as an example for silver.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly where the price was, but let's say the price closed at 1750 in China. It can't open up more than 10% from there. Right. And we know it's not going to open up 10% more. Right. So what does that mean? What that means is, you got to subtract $1.75 off that price for that 10%. That puts us down to $15 No, 1750. So that puts us down to $15.75. That's my point there. So they're saying that, the market can't reopen with more than a 10% swing in price. 10% from 1750 is $15.75. I don't think the cartel can smash that low. That's why I threw 1625 out there. Because the other thing about 1575, right, that's 10% of 1750. But the other thing about 1575 is that's where there's an air pocket. So if on the charts, right, if you're looking at that price, it's got to go like down to 1525 or something like that, or else because there's an air pocket there. That's why I'm saying about 1625. Is any of this making any sense? Because I'm kind of all over the board as usual, Mike.
I hear you. And so you might have to dial it down just a little bit more because I'm trying to figure out, you mentioned that it'll be hard for them to be able to slam the price down that low. But just say, for example, I just saw someone mention here if there's some type of false flag event or something. I mean, because beyond the metals discussion, there's a lot of other things happening that could also be some type of market maneuvering type of situation. So prior to us going live, we talked about the bombings over in Saudi Arabia. That's the situation there. We got the political chaos here. So, factor in all that stuff right there. This could be a pivotal week just in the political realm or geopolitical events. So could those be some things that could be a reason why metals may be slashed or can you factor that stuff in?
Yes. Now, those things you're talking about would be bullish for metals, like as far as like war and the geopolitics about that.
Yeah.
As far as the also risk, there is another risk to consider too, which is currency risk, right? Mm-hmm. Because the trade war, China's in their competitive devaluations and all this and all that. So yes, there is that risk. So I'm talking about just, at a dollar per dollar level, China saying, hey, when we come back next week, gold and silver price, gold was 8%. But they say, when we come back next week, the silver price is not going to be 10% from where it is now. We know it's not going to be up to upside, so it's going to be to the downside. Yeah. Because China's not the only thing this week, right? There's two other things going on this week that I say are planned that are going to be covered for the cartel to come and smash. Mm-hmm. Friday, we get the September jobs report.
Yeah.
And we get international trade data. And both of those reports hit at 8:30, and both of those reports can be used as cover to smash gold and silver in the narrative, in the mainstream. In fact, the mainstream always uses the jobs report as cover to smash gold and silver as soon as it hits the tape. In addition to that, so that's Friday morning, but it's a 2-for-1. It's a double whammy because at 2 p.m., Jerome Powell's giving a speech and has a question and answer session and something called like the Fed Listens or something like that. So in Washington, D.C., anybody watching in Washington, you got to crash this party and ask some hard questions, I'm telling you. Because I don't know if it's open to the public or who, but Jerome Powell's going to be speaking on Friday afternoon. Well, so
No, I'm saying the likelihood of that being a true open opportunity for people to come in, like you have to be on the list because from that Fed Listens, I think I've read something about they're open to economists and probably accredited journalists and people who are part of the club or will keep their questions. You probably have to submit a question prior to being admitted in there.
Yes.
You can only ask that question.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I mean, and we'll get to that one. I want to talk about Venezuela. But yes, so I don't think that I don't think that we're going to rally here this week. It could turn around at the end of the week and we could see some front running. But remember, the cartel always makes more money suppressing price than they do allowing price to rise.
Right.
Um, so, it's just one of those things where I wasn't as bearish as I was, but this morning before I started writing, I started turning really bearish when I saw the margin hikes, and then on top of that, when I saw they're going to allow silver 10%.
Yeah.
And then the gold to silver ratio. We talk about just naturally speaking, because it's a smaller market, is why silver swings so much. Mm-hmm. But China is telling us via the Shanghai Gold Exchange that gold can move 8% and silver can move 10%. Right. So, that's another thing this week. The gold silver ratio is going to go up again based on that, because they're, as a matter of public policy, saying we'll let gold rise, or in this case, fall up to 8%, and we'll let silver fall up to 10%. Yeah. So not only is it just natural, but this week it's actively enforced.
So, with that being the case, based upon what the price is currently at this moment and what it could end up being into this week or throughout this week, it's a great buying opportunity is what you're saying.
Yes. This is a great buying opportunity for stackers out there this week. This is a wonderful opportunity, Mike.
A great opportunity. So whenever the price dips or is expected to dip, keep an eye out, because you can probably get a little bit more weight at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's check into the chat a little bit, and then we'll get some thoughts and see what people have going on out here. Let me see. Let me unlock some things back here. So, says I see some Trump talk. Trump says gold and silver are taking a dive. What else we got here? We got more comments on possible prices. It says someone says, so to summarize, you must sell all gold and silver because they are going to $400 and $7 respectively. Yeah, that would be a little bit extreme there. But yet, once again, those would be some good prices if it was possible.
Yeah, I don't think that is possible, but because they got it, because that's one of the things I wrote about actually when I was talking about copper today. It's like there's actually a cost associated with getting gold and silver to the market, and it might not seem like there is, but there is.
And watch this. Someone Albert S says, why is platinum down 5%?
Because just this morning, I also said, I really do think that they're starting to look at platinum and treat it just like gold and silver. Mm-hmm. Because you brought this up a couple months ago, Mike. You said, and this is not a direct quote because my memory's not that good, but this is a paraphrase of you.
Yeah.
You said, anything that has the qualities of money with what is coming is going to catch that bid. And platinum's got it all going for it. Yeah. And remember, the gold to silver ratio arbitrage is real, and the platinum to gold ratio arbitrage is real too. So deeper pocketed investors, they can be buying, loading up on platinum right now, and they can turn that into free gold, just like silver stackers can turn their stackers into free gold when this cycle turns around. So I think that they have shifted focus, and they're really starting to look at platinum as they're looking at gold and silver, because palladium just hit another new all-time high today. Ooh, right? Yeah. Okay. So, yes. So palladium's been on a tear, and that's because the physical issues are starting to overwhelm them. And there have been, palladium shortages for quite a while, which has been well documented over the last year and a half. But so they're starting to look at platinum just like gold and silver, and that's how they're treating platinum lately.
All right, so I got to check out some of these prices. Palladium price, okay. So let me get to some more questions and some more thoughts. And as always, if anyone has anything they want to chime in directly, give us a call, 567-336-0844, and I'll keep moving down the chat. And so it looks like we got a couple people requesting Mr. Willie back on, Mr. Dr. Jim Willie back on.
Oh, yeah, we'll get back with him.
Oh, man, it says dead. So somebody commenting on Harry dead. It's interesting. Say yes to wealth preservation. What else we got going on here? Why is palladium so much? And so it says has this national debt. All right, so let's and
a couple more things about palladium, just real quick before we move on. Palladium is one of those 22 or whatever it was things that a couple years ago the U.S. came out and said is a strategic metal important to the national security of the United States. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, the palladium is coming from South Africa, other African countries. And what's been going on in these African countries? There's been these, mine disputes, mine problems, people dying in the mines, and then just the civil unrest in general. We've been talking about South Africa for a few weeks now. So, there are there's a fear premium in addition to the fact that palladium's been in short supply. So that's what's going on with palladium there.
Yeah. And speaking of which, I definitely want to touch on. So over this past weekend, I had a chance to, speak with someone that's currently in Zimbabwe right now. And so just getting a full-fledged scoop as to how things are really getting out of control there. and just the dangers around just living there now, and the fact that not only is Zimbabwe in a hot area right now, there's civil war going on in other countries surrounding it. So, yeah, political, monetary, fiscal, all that stuff is colliding right now, and we can get a good example of what it looks like in that region right there. And those are currencies that nobody really care about apart from the individuals in those countries. So imagine if it was to go to something in the nature of a Federal Reserve note or the current reserve currency of the world. So yeah, a lot of stuff there. So I want to share some of the story there as we move on, because I think it relates a lot to what you want to talk about with Venezuela as well. So yeah, but I pulled up the palladium, and so going through that, and it looks like as of now it's 1684, 1675. It looks like just down $16 today.
Wow.
So yeah, that's $1,600. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, man, keep it moving. What else we got going on here? Check back in the chat. And so hopefully we got says low blood pressure says what do you guys think gold and silver ratio back to 90-1?
Yeah, I think it's going to be above there this week. I definitely do.
Yeah.
So
90-1, above 90-1. Wow.
And remember, all it's got to do is get to 40, and then that's a free ounce of gold for anybody who is going to take advantage of this. I mean, people say there's no such thing as a free lunch, and that's true. But if you do the gold to silver ratio arbitrage, there's such thing as free gold.
Yeah. Now, just thinking about that, free gold. And so this is just a question I want to throw out there to you and see what you think about it. And so because of the whole idea of the gold to ratio aspect and looking to take advantage of free gold and just being able to redeem and exchange, do you think there could probably come a point where perhaps a coin dealer or someone that is in a precious metals business would be like, hey, perhaps we won't be able to do this? Or do you think there's any disadvantages or cons to redeeming or exchanging silver for gold utilizing that model?
No, not from a dealer perspective, because the dealer's going to be, the dealer serves the public, right? I mean, people are like, oh, these slimy guys are just trying to make money, but it's really a service, right? Because, if someone has more than just one coin they're going to try to sell on eBay or something like that, if someone's got, thousands of ounces or hundreds of ounces or whatever, then they need someone that's got a little deeper pockets. And all they're doing is buying a little bit lower than the market rate for that coin in hand with the premium accounted for. And, they're charging a little bit more. So they're just making a little bit on the spread. That's all they're doing. Yeah. So, yes, they're going to still be doing, whether gold's going up or gold's going down, there's always going to be that market, and it's always going to be liquid like that.
Yeah. Yeah, buddy. All right, says I think Brent. Let me see. Any thoughts on Brent Johnson's milkshake theory?
Yeah, I'm not too familiar on the milkshake theory, but I'm not a strong dollar guy myself. And like I said last week, the Fed showed us that if there's a dollar, well, they call it a dollar funding crisis, but the Fed has shown their colors that they're just going to print dollars that are necessary. There's no dollar shortage out there.
Yeah, they're going to print as much as needed to keep this thing afloat. And I came across an article earlier about the Fed being more dovish and accommodative. And so accommodative to me means they're willing to do whatever it takes to keep this thing going. Therefore, without me actually knowing the full details that you shared with me in regards to the metals prices, I attributed the sudden decrease in metals price due to the fact that they're saying that we're going to inject more and keep this thing going. Therefore, that always tends to be very problematic for metals prices as well. So, yeah, a lot more things to be concerned with. And so we got, it says, can you guys explain me this? If the dollar gets stronger, normally the price of gold and silver gets smashed like it's happening today. How can gold get a rally if it's expected dollar to rise? From Ricardo. Great question, Ricardo.
Yeah, I mean, gold and silver don't have to move the opposite of the dollar. There are plenty of times when gold and silver move with the dollar. So I think that one of the things that's going on with the dollar right now is people are talking about the dollar funding shortage and immediately going to there's a dollar shortage. And if there's a shortage of anything, then what do, right? You get a higher price for it. So I think that a lot of what's going on with the dollar right now is a lot of people are moving into the dollar because they're making a bet that it's going to strengthen from here because all this stuff about the Fed and the shortage and this and that. So I think that it's going to just make the coming, decline even that much more severe because everybody's getting on one side of that boat right now with the dollar. So I think that the dollar strength right now is related more to people going in and bidding up the dollar because they think there's this shortage out there, which I don't agree with.
Yeah. It says, well, what's to stop the Chinese from buying gold and silver from the Western markets?
No, and they are, and I'm sure they are. Ask Canada how much gold they got. Where did that gold go? That went to China.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like the fact that over the last however many ever decades, central banks were sellers of their metals. Now the Eastern central banks are accumulating and at an alarming pace. So yeah, they all know what's going down and where to be when everything comes to a halt. So we will see how it pans out. It won't be pretty, that's for sure. So we got a lot of back and forth here. I like this. It says, so the Fed's QE and repo actions should have sent gold into the stratosphere. Instead, no gold went down again on traded sideways. So yeah, with that QE and repo, man, like that stuff, just give it time. And so, like always, I think that the QE and the repo, the initial effects will impact all those financial instruments as far as the investors, the institutions. Like they're the ones that will be. Because I read an article just I think it was yesterday about how problematic it is becoming for investors to manage and engage risk moving forward in an environment where quantitative easing comes back into play and all these other new policies are being implemented. So all that stuff will definitely filter its way through the financial industry, and then it'll come out on the other end when metals prices go up because of a lack of confidence in all these financial products and their attempt to keep this market stable as best they can.
Yep, yeah, excellent points there.
And good time. So watch this. Venezuela. Let's touch on that.
Oh man, Mike.
Share with us your thoughts on that, and I will touch on my Zimbabwe story. Go ahead.
Okay, Mike, Venezuela is about to go hot, and I've got a sinking feeling in my gut about this. A lot of little things happened this week, and barely anybody picked up on it or caught on to it. Remember last week was the whole UN thing, right? Did you happen to watch the press conference on Thursday that President Trump, Pompeo, and Mnuchin gave? And they were basically given like a quick update on all the things that America did. If you listen to it, it's actually pretty scary, right? Because it's basically like, it's America's way or we will literally destroy you. That's what it sounds like when they're giving these updates.
Yeah.
So they were giving these updates about all these things that they accomplished at the UN. And it was a press conference, and it was the International Press Corps, right? So they took questions at the end, and it's a packed room. And they only allowed like 2 questions, right? And one of them was from this cute little, I don't know who she is, but she's a part of Fox News, right? This little millennial reporter or whatever. And it's funny because like in the background, you could see, who's the one, not Donald Trump Jr., but the other one, Jared Kushner. Is his last name Kushner? His stepson, Trump's stepson. But anyway, he was in the background of that. So it was pretty funny of that picture, like 2 seats over from this Fox News reporter that they called on. But the other person that they called on, so think about this coincidence. Out of all these people from the international press pool, the 2 questions they get is this cute little reporter from Fox News and then this reporter from Venezuela. What are the chances that President Trump's going to accidentally call on her, right? So you know it's scripted from the get-go.
Yeah.
So then I started listening, right? And there were 2 questions, and her accent was really thick, and she was nervous as all heck because obviously she knew what she was going to be doing, right? But she said a couple things. And one of the things, Trump didn't even really answer them, but one of the things that Trump said was, well, first of all, I have to use your country's example because it's a bad example, but the United States will never become a socialist nation. And like when he says that, that's like, what's happening is actually we're becoming more and more socialist by the day. Like that should be clue number 1. Hello, something's not right here. But that's not the big thing I wanted to talk on. The big thing I wanted to talk about, and this is making me like, I was literally like, I don't know. I got goosebumps on Friday because I thought something was going to pop off this weekend. But, because the other thing is, right, with this the attack on the Saudi oil facility and showing it for what it is, it's hard to justify it because no one buys into the fact that it was Iran, right, on the international stage. So now they're turning their focus back onto Venezuela. So, and then the other thing that this reporter said when she asked her second question is, President Trump, please help us. This evil dictator Maduro's in there and we're starving and he's killing people and this and that and this and that. And President Trump was like, we're watching it. Don't you worry. We're watching it. We got our eyes on that. And then the reporter's like, oh, what does that mean, President? And they walk off the stage, right? But here's the important thing about that. Here's what people need to understand, okay? And I guess it is Guaido. I've been calling him Guaido, but there is an accent over the O. But anyway, regardless, He probably stuck it there after the fact just to be cool. But this guy, right, this Guaido, I'm just going to keep calling him Guaido. He went to this school in Caracas, Venezuela called Andres Bello University, right? This private Catholic university. I'm not sure if he was a classmate of this other guy, and I don't even remember the other guy's name. But that's not the important part. The other important part is then he went to the United States, Georgetown or George Washington or something like that for further studies. And, he's basically a CIA deep state globalist puppet, right? That's what he is. Yeah. But here's where I'm going with that, right? So this question that was asked by this reporter from something called IPTV or PITV or something like that, right? This company that has 49 reporters and a YouTube channel and this and that. And this company is owned by this company, this IPTV or whatever YouTube channel is called, is owned by this company called Caracas Chronicles, right? Caracas Chronicles. And Caracas Chronicles is an actual company, right? And it's the CEO of it. I can't remember what this guy's name is, right? It's like Stolk or Stork or Stock or something like, or Coke or something like that. But that's not the point. The point is, the guy that's the CEO of this company that this reporter was allowed to ask a question from, guess where he went to school? He went to school in Andres Bello University in Caracas. Like I said, I don't remember if he was a classmate of Guaido or not. But then after that, he went to Fordham Law School in the United States. He got a law degree in the United States, right? So was there any coincidence that, this is propaganda at its finest? This is deep state globalist propaganda in the works at its finest, right? They pick Fordham Law School students like all the time for like crazy corruption and scandalous stuff, right? That's where G. Gordon Lilly or Gilly or whatever his name is from the whole Watergate thing came out of. And we know that, they recruit all over these universities, right? So my point with that is they set the stage, right? This reporter saying, please help us. This evil dictator is doing all these terrible things. What are you going to do to help us out? He's going to Russia. She said Russia too. She's like, he's going to Russia and what is he doing in Russia? President Trump, please help us. So that was on Thursday. And then on Friday, this is what gave me goosebumps about it. On Friday, Venezuela's actual vice president spoke at the UN, right? Her name is Delcy Rodriguez, right? She's the VP of Venezuela. And, the first question is, well, why didn't Maduro go? Well, obviously Maduro's not going to step foot in the United States, right? That's just like, who would do that in the right mind? So the vice president, right? I guess she's not much of a threat. But she was carrying this picture with Guaido with some like Colombian narco guy. But here's my point about that, right? No one from the United States was in attendance when she was speaking, except for like this one dude that was shuffling his seats and taking like selfies and stuff like that. But she was giving a speech, and she literally said, the United States is working with the Colombian narco-traficantes and the Colombian militias, right, the paramilitaries, and they're going to invade Venezuela to overthrow Maduro. And that makes total sense with everything that's going on, right? And she was showing a picture of Guaido with this Colombian narco guy. So on top of that, so what she was saying, she was like, this is, and she's like, and this is a warning to any other country, right? Because the bottom line is, if you do something that the United States is not in agreement with, this could be you. And she's like, these atrocities that are about to happen could be you. So, just my point there, and I'm going around in a lot because there's a lot of those little dots that you have to connect, is that it looks like the United States is still gearing to go in hard on Venezuela again. And now that the whole Iran thing attacking Saudi Arabia has fallen through, it looks like they're switching over to the Venezuelan plan again. So, a long time ago, you were like, what's going to get hot first, Venezuela or Iran? And I said Iran. But now I really think is, how can they spin it the quickest without the public catching on to maintain control of the narrative? Because they never had control of the narrative in Saudi Arabia. So, and obviously they're not going to get control of the narrative of Venezuela because, it's like, that evil Maduro and socialism. I think it opens up a whole new can of worms, though, because that's literally right in our backyard at this point. And then with Hispanics as the largest minority. So you got questions about that? Or I don't know if I left anything out.
No, that makes perfect sense. And a while back, I was wondering what will be that argument, or what will be that what would they use to actually get down there? And so, of course, they were attempting to paint a narrative as humanitarian aid, that we needed to send the UN down there with all types of cargo ships with whatever in it, who knows? It's supposed to be humanitarian aid, but it wasn't allowed in. So I figured that was going to be a way of them smuggling in things to equip and to fund probably sales inside the country. But it makes sense now that you can use the Colombian rebels and all those type of forces as your own eyes and ears on the ground because they know the back routes. And also this weekend I saw a report from Gray Zone, which happens to have a reporter who was in Venezuela. So they were saying how Guaido, because I haven't heard nothing about him on mainstream news at all, but yet they showed pictures of him, smiling with all those Colombian so-called smugglers, drug traffickers, whatever they are. And so I'm thinking like, wow, why not establish some of those people within Venezuela, fund them through Colombia? And so it's the same with Syria. Like we funded the rebels, we funded the opposition. So we can just fund everybody and give them a game plan, and they can execute it on our behalf. And it makes it look like the internal conflict amongst Venezuelans are getting out of control. They're killing each other down there. We have to go in there, type of thing. So
yes,
yeah, not surprised at all.
So this is coming. This is coming. Couple points on that, and she specifically said, and they're going to turn Venezuela into just some sort of drug trafficking, hub for the United States, and that makes total sense, right? Pablo Escobar's son said, his dad worked for the CIA, right? Mm-hmm. And I've been saying all along, and this is what makes me more matter than anything. The wall is not to keep people out, right? The wall is for several things, one of which is to turn the United States into a literal prison. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that it's for is to ensure that the deep state globalists in charge of this drug trafficking from South America have complete and total monopoly over the drug smuggling, right? Because if you got a wall, it makes it a heck of a lot harder for mom and pop drug smugglers to pop up and get stuff across the border, right? They don't want that to happen. So, I mean, this is really sick and twisted stuff we're talking about here, Mike. And then another thing, remember a couple weeks ago, there was like all this chatter, why is the U.S. military training with AK-47s and all this and all that? And you connect that dot, and it's like, well, because they're going to shoot a bunch of Venezuelans, and they're not going to use M16s to do it,
So man, you stay on top of yours, man. That's a good right. I like that right there. Once again, as always, we can go back and forth because I got some stuff I want to share as well. But let's get some thoughts from those that are tuning in. So as always, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and we've covered a variety of subject matters. So bear with us, and it's all interconnected, and it all has to do with the current dominance of our country and the privilege we've had and having the reserve currency at the end of the day. So as long as we still got the reserve currency, they're going to do the best they can and make sure they maintain that power, which for those that are aware, buys us a little bit more time to be able to make moves and adjust to our own financial well-being for the future. So
yes, and why does Venezuela matter? Venezuela matters because of oil, right? They want oil sold for dollars, and they want control of that oil. Same reason why Iran matters, right? Because Iran sells oil, and they want those oils sold in dollars, and that's it, right? So, Venezuela does, in fact, matter in the world of geopolitics, and it's going to get hot really quick. So,
yeah, I do agree. So watch this. So if anybody has any thoughts you want to share, make sure you highlight at Silver Doctors, and then we'll answer your question, or you can share those thoughts. And so I want to, comment on, as I mentioned, Zimbabwe and that region there, because I've been following for some time now, because it has similar characteristics as the United States of America, given the fact that several years they are a naturally wealthy country, and from what I was told via conversations, that if you wouldn't have known any different if you were in America or in Zimbabwe a couple years ago, prior to the hyperinflation, even during a little couple years afterwards when the dollar was the primary medium of exchange there, which as of June, it's no longer legal tender there, so you can't use it, which is causing problems now. But they were saying that, the economy was starting to recover from their last hyperinflation. Confidence was back up, business was starting to boom, and it was looking like, a second of United States of America type of environment. But it's all changed now due to the political corruption there and the new president who's coming in, who appears to be a bought and paid for puppet as well. And so he's implementing the same policies that Mugabe, the former president, had. And as of today, because of their attempt to rein things back in under the government, it's complete chaos now, where the black market has taken over. The stores are empty. I was told that there's no cash in the ATM machines because they're forced to use the Zimbabwe dollar again. And there's only two denominations. There's, I think, $2 bills and $5 bills, of which because of inflation, nobody wants them. So the ones that are in circulation are no longer circulating. So people there are strapped for cash, and the black market is the primary economy there. And he was just throwing out some prices of what it costs to get what you need. I'm thinking like, we can never imagine a time when there isn't an established economy where you can go to your grocery stores and go to your gas stations. And he's like, at this current moment, if you want any type of privilege that you might have now, you got to pay extra for it through bribery. So if you want gas, you got to go to the gas station and pay a little bit extra to get in line, not on top of what you have to pay to get your gas. And so I'm thinking like in that environment, savings is gone because there's nothing in the bank. He's like the only form of things they do accept is debit cards because it's all digital. And just an overall picture that was painted for me about what's going on now. And the conversation ended with, Mike, the same type of thing that's happening here can easily happen in America because everything is similar. It's just that they have a smaller economy. We currently have the global or the leading of the global economy, and just more details as to how it could easily turn into what's down there right here really got me thinking of like, wow, we have no clue at how blessed we are at this current moment, but nevertheless how things could change in the future, and it can resemble things that's currently happening right now. So this is a great example, once again, of what we can learn from, just the idea of how economies in the political realm, when they collide, it spells complete chaos for those that are not aware. So it was really eye-opening just to hear all that stuff, my friend.
Yes, I've lived in North Carolina, New York, West Virginia, Ohio, Arizona, Texas, and I can't remember if I'm leaving any place else. Mm-hmm. So several different places, right? Mm-hmm. But here's my point with that, right? Different places in the country have these different customs, but I just want to give a point of that because you make a very interesting point, right? Just of how rude the awakening is going to be here in the United States. Because I look at, like, for example, Ohio, right? And everybody just stands in line and nobody cuts in line and everybody's polite and, everybody's just kind of like doing their thing and, respecting everybody, right? Yeah. Or I think about North Carolina. A lot of people don't know this in North Carolina, but like if I'm at the grocery store, right, and I'm standing there looking at the cereal and they got like 20 million cereals in the aisle and I'm trying to figure out which cereal I want, mm-hmm. right? If you're walking down the aisle and you walk in front of me, mm-hmm. like you got to literally like duck and walk and say excuse me to try to not block my view because mm-hmm. that's how the customs are in North Carolina, right? It's really weird, but we're going from that kind of stuff to, Mike, I mean, Americans are armed to the teeth. When this civil unrest comes to the United States, it is going to be nasty. I mean, it's going to be 10 times worse than, because remember, like in Venezuela, I don't know what it's like in Zimbabwe, but the people were already disarmed, generally speaking, right? So, I mean, that's why there's such a push to get the guns because it is going to be downright nasty this time around. And like everything that people have come to know, standing politely in line, waiting your turn politely, ducking and saying excuse me as somebody's looking at the cereal because you're walking in front of all of these little things. I mean, those are just so peddly compared with what's coming. People aren't going to be able to fathom it. And unfortunately, the mainstream media is the one that's at fault for this because they give this idea that, Americans are just so exceptional. It's always going to be this way. Yeah. And they don't show what really goes on in the rest of the world. In the rest of the world, if you're not scrapping and fighting for what you're trying to accomplish, you're not going to get it accomplished. And if you're not bribing to get it, then you're going to get it accomplished slower. You see what I'm saying? I mean, This is just standard operating procedure. I mean, sure, I have bribed cops in Mexico, right, to get off of what they were trying to charge me for, right? That's just how it works, right? Because if you don't make enough to feed your family, right, and you pull someone over, well, you're going to make enough to feed your family. You know what I mean, Mike?
Yeah. They said you had to bribe the cop.
And it's a negotiation. It's a negotiation between the cop. You go back and forth. Here I imagine it's just, I've never bribed a cop in the United States, but I imagine if I would, well, I know how I would do it if I would. It'd be like the license with the $20 bills folded underneath it, handed to him, right, out of the sight of the body camera. But in Mexico, I mean, it's like a back and forth negotiation, and you got to start out real low because he's going to start out real high. So If you get off anywhere between 20 and $50, depending on the infringement, and if you're a foreign in Mexico, that's a good deal. In the United States, I think it's going to take north of 100, but it's probably going to take $500 to start bribing cops when it starts here in the United States. I'm not saying this is what I'm looking forward to, but I'm saying this is what's coming.
Yeah, but and along with that, it's going to be a matter of law enforcement. They also get paid in the same currency that I believe will one day be the primary reason why social unrest will become common. And so I don't think law enforcement itself will be willing to take just a mere 100 to because I mean and the problem is, like, I remember watching the news develop years and years ago of how the current military force was being equipped with military grade things. I think it was they bought up the most. The Department of Justice, whoever bought up the most bullets, all bullets were sold out. Whatever during our time frame, and I was
hearing about Social Security Administration.
Yeah, and so the bullets they got all the guns, military tanks. I remember driving down I-75 and seeing all these military vehicles. I'm like, what are these? Like, it was like, okay, where are they going with these military? We were not in outright war to where the boys were being shipped anywhere. So I remember hearing about the military major metropolitan areas being equipped for what? I'm thinking like, okay, perhaps they anticipate social unrest becoming a problem. And so my question would then be, will this supposed to already have happened? Say if the other political candidate who didn't win president, if she became president, will we already be in that time frame? Or is there original time frame that they have in mind, perhaps when the economy implodes and it's that shift of global dominance when we become, like everyone else as far as our currency no longer being accepted? What do you think about that? Like, is that still in the plans, perhaps?
I think we would have already been in that situation if Hillary would have won. Mm-hmm. But then again, we need this to happen, right? Because either one of two things are going to happen, right? The United States is just going to be a failed state, or we're going to be able to rebuild it. I'm hopeful that we can rebuild it. But either way, the economy is going to crash, stock market's going to crash because there's too many imbalances, and it's just too way out of whack. Yeah. I think it would have already happened, right? And it would have taken a turn for the worse, and we would have less of a fighting chance if Hillary would have got elected. Mm-hmm. I still think it's going to happen under President Trump. I just think they're extracting a little bit of that last wealth right now. And I think that we have more of a fighting chance under President Trump. But yeah, I mean, totally. This is, and it's not just, the military grade, armor piercing bullets, and it's not, I mean, it's armored vehicles. I mean, you cannot distinguish an American, county police force from a federal, police force or even the military anymore. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's just going to be some nasty stuff. But when it comes down to it, like you said, and I'm not saying all cops are corrupt, right? That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying in general, this is what is going to happen. Most people will become corrupted because they're just surviving. I mean, that's what it is at the end of it. It's not that you want to become corrupt. It's that you got to feed your family and the dollars are hyperinflating. So when I pull somebody over, guess what? That ticket they pay is going to be instant. No one's going to know about it. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So yes, I think we would already be there with Hillary. I think it would be a much worse shape. And we would have less of a fighting chance. I think we have more of a fighting chance now, but we still have to have, the reset and the crash to happen because, there's just too much imbalance.
Too much imbalance. That's a good way of putting it, man. I like that. Too much imbalance. All right, so let's check in with the chat. As always, we haven't gotten a call yet, so obviously nobody wants to talk to us today, probably. Or we might get that one call. We'll see. But let me see. I don't see anything highlighted in the chat. And let me see, 500 billion a week. We got repo is small, QE, 500 billion TARP. Yeah. Did you happen to have a chance to see? There was a recent interview that I saw with Rob Kirby, of which I'm gonna reach out to Rob and see about getting him back on the show because he shared some interesting information. I think it was on USA Watchdog. Did you have a chance to watch that?
Yeah, I watched that, and that was really, really interesting, and it makes total sense. He was basically saying that. Why is there a dollar shortage? Because the U.S. government is funneling, dollars into the shale oil industry, and they're just being burned out of loss.
Yeah, and I think when I heard that, I'm like, wow, that's a unique perspective, like to take, and because it definitely makes sense because now President Trump over the last a year or so has been touting about not only a strong economy but us being oil. Or energy independent now and taking it with pride or whatever. I'm thinking like, but the price hasn't really gone up. So why are these touting this, economic independence all of a sudden when that market has been very questionable as of late. So yeah, now I can understand a little bit better. So we'll see how that plays out.
Those are great points because that is right. And remember, I think it's all the opposite, right? Mm-hmm. So because I think President Trump is the fall guy. Mm-hmm. So when I say that, he's touting us being energy independent, well, that means we're about to become energy dependent, right? Mm-hmm. When he says at the UN last Thursday to that Venezuelan reporter that somehow he just coincidentally picked at random, when he says the United States will never become socialist, that means that we're already socialists, mm-hmm. right? So, when he says, we have the greatest economy ever, that means we have the worst economy ever. So,
and the question would be, if we have the greatest economy ever, that doesn't really say much because we also have the reserve currency. So the world dependent upon everything we do based upon dollars, and having to have treasuries as a reserve savings vehicle for every single country in order to do business. So that doesn't really say much to me when I hear those words these days. But
the one thing I do want to point out about that Rob Kirby interview, because I don't want people to misunderstand this. I think this is very important. Rob is basically limited by this 21 trillion, mm-hmm. right? And you see, I don't think that that's a limiting factor. This missing 21 trillion. Everybody talks about this missing 21 trillion, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think that that's a limiting factor because I don't think that that's like, we spent all our 21 million, now we're done. No, mm-hmm. they're just going to print that stuff up because the Fed's not audited, mm-hmm. gold's not audited, and they got a printing press anyway. So we really don't know what the limit is. It's just that we know that there's been 21 trillion that went missing. Who knows what else there is? But I don't think that's that's where it ends.
Yeah, I do agree as well. So that's another thing is, between now and the time all this truly unravels and becomes obvious, there will be no way of determining how much was actually brought into existence with a dollar amount. Because right now we're already talking about just unfunded liabilities that are close to 100+ trillion, and those are what we can actually keep account of because our government's responsible for that. So there's no telling what the Federal Reserve has done to support European banks and other entities and whatever else is out there. So who knows? But yeah, we'll see. There's a question from Paul Green. In the chat, it says, do you think the U.S. could survive the destruction of the dollar by creating a new currency based on silver and gold standard? Paul, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I don't know. The question is good, but I think we need to think about it differently, right? Mm. It's not the destruction of the dollar. What it is that the dollar needs to be defined as a specific weight and purity of gold and silver. That's it. So whether we call it a dollar or not, it has to be gold and silver. Yes, because that's what the Constitution says. So whether it's the dollar or not the dollar, whatever it is, it has to be a specific weight and purity of gold and silver. So yes. So will the dollar survive? I think it's irrelevant. I don't think it matters. And then will the dollar in its current form survive? No, it's going to be hyperinflated away. This is always the case with fiat currencies and the fall of empires.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And that's the standard. Like at this current moment, the dollar standard is hasn't proved to be a viable solution. So whatever the next standard will be, I would imagine, and is appearing to be that they want to have some type of basket, and that basket, unfortunately, includes some type of crypto base because, we got Mark Carney and all the other people talking about cryptocurrency. Whatever they're going to propose will have to be crypto based. And then the chance of them throwing gold and silver up into that basket is very slim. So I think the stable coin is what they're going to try to throw as a global stable coin comprised of a basket of whatever. But you look excited to share something. Go ahead.
Well, I am, because you're talking about the dollar system. And that just made me think and tie it even more into what I was thinking about Venezuela. Now that I remember that Rob Kirby interview from yesterday, was that it's the dollar standard. He kept talking. It's basically a way to just keep the petrodollar alive just a little while longer. All they're doing is buying time. He kept saying that over and over. All they're doing is buying just a little bit more time for the petrodollar. That's exactly what Venezuela is about, right? Yeah. Because it's control of that petrodollar for just a little while longer. As far as the crypto thing, yeah. Did you, we never really talked about this, but did you see that glint? I don't know if they went bankrupt or if they just all of a sudden, what exactly happened there? Mm-hmm. But this was a gold-backed cryptocurrency. And within months, they've already gone belly up. And now they're either getting sued or about to get sued. And they've either filed bankruptcy or they're about to file bankruptcy or one or the other. But here's my point, right? If a gold-backed cryptocurrency doesn't work, right? How does a fiat, unbacked cryptocurrency work?
Right. Now we have a call. Let me see if we can get this call on here. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, it's James calling from Los Angeles. How are you?
I'm doing good, James from Los Angeles. What's on your mind this afternoon?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick correction for your guest. The Iran situation is not about oil at all. If we wanted to get oil out of Iran, we wouldn't have had the Israel lobby with Sheldon Adelson, AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, and the neocon influence removed the Iran deal because that's what Trump did it for, basically, for Sheldon Adelson's millions. And we could have bought as much oil as we wanted for Iran. So what's going on with Iran is it's in accord with the Israeli Likud Oder Genon neocon plan. You can look that up at Global Research. And it's also Sheldon Adelson's millions that basically Trump has taken. And what the Democrats should really be looking into is a quid pro quo there. Sheldon Adelson's millions to Donald Trump, and I'm an independent. I actually voted for Trump, but I think he let us down, and I regret voting for him now. I never would have voted for crooked Hillary, so I don't want to think that you to think that I'm a Democrat. Like I said, I was a registered Republican for years since I was 18, and I left the party, the neocon party, and registered as an independent. It was the best thing that I ever did politically. But like I said, with Venezuela, you can make an argument that oil is involved there, but you also have Israel lobby influence down there because the neoconservatives don't like how Venezuela and Maduro were selling uranium to Iran as well. So the main focus should be Israel and the Israel lobby influence. And like I said, it's silly to say that Iran has got oil. Because and just like Iraq was willing to sell us as much oil as we wanted to do. And in fact, China got most of Iraq's oil. You can look up the New York Times article about that. Then lastly, you can see my friend's book, The Transparent Cabal. His name is Dr. Steven Stagowski. He has an excellent article over at unz.com. I know it's being recorded on YouTube as well, so people can reference this. At unz.com, unz.com, and look up Iran Delinda, Delenda EST, Iran Delinda EST. That's by Dr. Steven Stagowski. And also, Philip Giraldi has an excellent article, Israel's Many Wars, over at unz.com as well. So again, the known plan is all about Israel and not about oil. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, I get that, right? I mean, I get that there's a lot of that going on. I'm not oblivious to that. So, but those are good points, right? I would subscribe to, I don't know the inner geopolitics between, this whole Zionism, Israel thing, one way or another. But, I like, reading like Paul Craig Roberts, for example, he says that a lot of it is because, Israel can't win a war on their own. And what they're doing is they're trying to secure their water rights, right? Which is why there's this big push against Hezbollah and Hamas and all these other things. Because at the end of it, it's about water rights is what it's about. And yeah, I get it. I understand the dancing Israelis and the AIPAC. I understand all those things. So there's more than just oil. But just to say that oil has nothing to do with it, I wouldn't say that that's correct, right? I think that they go hand in hand, one way or another.
Well, no matter what, it's all about ultimate power and control. And so a lot of people always refer back to the state of Israel and what they're doing and just the control they have over our entire monetary system. I mean, they're, to my knowledge, from the Rothschilds family, all that stuff originated through that lineage or whatever. So that's where we're at now. So those are the individuals that control, have a say so with an agenda. Every entity has an agenda, and it has nothing to do with freedom and rights for the people itself. So it's all to suppress and take it away.
And obviously London ties in there too, right? Yeah. So it's not just the United States and Israel. It's a three-way, right? Yeah. It's pretty sick. It's a three-way. Because anybody who would not want to say that that's not the case, well, why is the Queen on the back of half the world's money, I mean, they got their hands in there too. They do.
Yeah, now I have a question for you. I think this is a good one. Because there's a current candidate that's running that's for value-added tax. And so it says, do you guys see the government adding or charging a VAT tax like they currently have in England or on gold and silver in the future if it takes off?
That's a very interesting question. First of all, let me give the background of that, right? When I did the Simon Popple interview a couple weeks back, I knew about the VAT tax, but he explained it a little bit more, what I didn't know about it. And for example, in the UK, there's not a VAT tax on gold. but the VAT tax is on silver.
Mm-hmm.
Could it happen? I mean, I think that the United States is going to try and put a VAT tax on more than just gold and silver, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, when you go to other countries, like even Mexico's got a VAT tax, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you go to other countries, these VAT taxes are on a whole number of things. It's called value added tax. And basically in England, it's 20%. 20% value added tax.
Really?
You know, so we have a sales tax system that a lot of the states are adopting now on gold and silver. So the bottom line is, you know, the government always wants more. So I think the government is going to try and get more out of everything, not just gold and silver, but they want more from everything you do and everything you buy.
Yeah.
And VAT tax, yeah, that's one of the ways to do that.
Yeah, I don't.
Which is why now's a great time, because before all this stuff happens, you know, load up on the physical.
Yeah, get your weight up. And so whatever the tax structure is now, whatever numbers they give us now, as things get worse in the future, definitely expect that all to go up, because as always, what we've always learned is that, especially with this MMT, if they get into that full-fledged theory of just print out as much as they want and then trying to make up the difference or correct the inflation aspect of it with taxation, then they're gonna definitely have to raise taxes. So. Yeah, of all types. We might be introduced to different types of tax we don't even know about on different things. So yeah, we'll see how that goes though. But yeah, man, anything else in the chat, feel free to let us know. And so we're approaching the hour point. Anything else you want to touch on before we get ready to dial back?
No, that's it for today. I think it'll be interesting. Maybe we'll keep a scan out, see if there's anything going on in the auto industry. Because remember, I think that Clash of Hookers 2.0 is coming, but it's got to come soon, because I also think that Maximum Pain's coming, and it takes a while for people to fall behind on those payments so their cars can get repossessed, right? So if something's going to happen like that, it's going to happen soon. And we're hearing a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff out of like Ford and General Motors about problems that are going on.
Yes,
So that might be an interesting thing that we could be watching this week as well.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, what I've noticed is the more I drive past GM facilities, I see more people out in the streets with signs about the UAW protesting. And I'm thinking, like, man, they protesting at the wrong time. They should be at work right now making as much as they can, because, in my opinion, by next spring or summer, GM will be definitely announcing a much greater layoff plan than we got at the beginning of this year. So, yeah, it's going to be ugly for a lot of people. But so right now is the best time to continue to prepare and utilize this time that you have, an income or whatever it is, to take advantage of it to the best of your ability, because there's nothing guaranteed moving forward. So,
gold, silver, and skills. That's what I like to focus on.
I like that idea, my friend. But all right, we'll get ready to dial back. As always, it's been great, everybody hanging out with us this afternoon. If you've enjoyed the back and forth, as always, don't forget to donate a thumbs up beneath this video. Just hit that thumbs up. Or worst case scenario, if you didn't enjoy it, don't be afraid to donate a thumbs down. Either way, put forth some energy towards something. We appreciate the support. Other than that, we'll be back midweek on Wednesday. And of course, between now and then, if you guys hear of any stories or anything, leave it in the comment section here, and we'll try to get to it and address it come Wednesday afternoon as well. So other than that, invite a friend and come back Wednesday afternoon. It's 12 o'clock, same time, same place. Enjoy your day. Be safe.